everybody. Welcome to another episode of Hawk Blogger Mornings. I'm Brian Nemhauser. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and other places at Hawk Blogger. And today, you find myself and Nathan Ernst. I'm going to do this thing where I look at him, he looks at me,
It's
and then
really
I look at the...
already very confusing.
We're going to figure out how that works. We're here in Indianapolis at the NFL Combine. I'm so excited that I finally got a partner in crime. Dana O'Gorman's here as well, but she's really here with our turf. Like, we kind of steal her over for real Hawk Talk stuff now and again. But Nathan, you know, he's dedicated. He, a week ago, dude.
No idea this was going to happen.
You had no plans to be here.
None.
And now here you are in Indianapolis after like a mad dash to get here.
Yep.
What do you want to say to your lovely wife?
I was going to say big shout out to my wife. She kind of immediately recognized like, oh, this is probably, you know, a big deal. And I was like, yeah. And so we, it worked out great. I mean, we didn't have a whole lot of stuff we had to reschedule, which was really good. But yeah, she was awesome about it. And so yeah, I'm here. So definitely a big thank you to her.
You arrived like middle of the night.
Yeah.
So you didn't get to come to St. Elmo's with Dana and I and Cleveland Kate, who's another partner of Dana's on our turf.
I missed out.
So St. Elmo's is this kind of standard here. It's been around. It's a steakhouse. Been around for a long time, and I thankfully was able to hone in on Dana's reservation. And you get in, and I walk in. As I walk in, Mike Vrabel walks out. It's that kind of week.
Yeah.
You know?
This is the restaurant where John wrote down the Russell Wilson trade on a napkin, right?
Is that true? I don't know that.
I think that chat can fact check us here, but I believe that's the case.
Interesting. Well, so you walk into this place, and it's like this tight alley. It's like a bar. Like you walk into the bar, and it's bar tables along one, and then like the bar itself, and it looks like, is this like the whole thing? That's kind of cool. So we wait a few minutes to get seated. They're like, okay, now you can go to the counter. Well, you walk to the end of the bar, and that's where the hostess table is, and she then seats you when they're ready. Nathan, they walked us down a hall which had all these pictures on it of like famous people. I was like, oh, this is cool. Into this massive dining room. Then they turned left. We walked down another big room. We walked through that, took a right, walked downstairs, 3 more big rooms. They took us through that, and then they like had this little cubby hole that they had opened. Like we were the first people they were sitting in it. Like, and then within 10 minutes, that was full. There must have been like 1,000 people. Like it was like an anthill. Like you see this little thing on top, but there's like this entire network below.
Yeah. That's a theme so far I'm noticing here, because the convention center I had to do a little wandering and.
Well, you've got like your strides probably took you like 3 steps to get between different places.
Maybe a little bit more, but yeah, something like that. Yeah.
But you're here. You're here. I'm so excited you're here. So this morning we had our chance to talk to tight ends, cornerbacks, safeties, and as you've kind of seen it, it's like a little chaos. What's your first impression being here?
It's actually a lot. I mean, like, there's a lot going on, but it's a lot less chaos than I expected. I was a little nervous. I didn't really know what I was walking into. But it's actually pretty, like, all things considered, I think it's pretty streamlined and stuff, and it's pretty straightforward. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting, like, doing a press conference for the first time and trying to work up the guts to ask a question. And
what was your first question, and to who?
We'll find out.
Oh, really?
I might have whiffed on it today. So
you did
tomorrow,
you didn't get a question in?
No, I didn't get one in.
It takes a certain amount of like dickishness to ask a question, because everyone else is asking questions. It's like you'll hear on a lot of the videos I've been posting, I will try to say something and someone else will say it first, and you have to go, and it's kind of embarrassing. There was one guy. I almost don't want to tell you the story because I don't want you to like be discouraged. Like, there's all types here, as you've seen.
Oh, yeah.
There's you know, old, young, whatever. Anyway, this kind of young guy was sitting there with his iPhone, you know, taking video, and he was talking. Who was he trying to ask? Shoot, doesn't matter who.
I think I know this guy.
Doesn't matter who.
I think it's happened once or twice.
And he started to talk, and the guy picked someone else. he talks really loud. He just comes in really loud, like, which is a tactic.
Yeah.
The guy asked somebody else. It happened like 7 or 8 times to where everybody started chuckling.
Oh no.
And it almost felt like they was doing it on purpose to just troll this guy. It was the only time I've seen that. So everyone else, but it's a scrum, and that's why it's kind of nice to find some of these guys that don't have as many people around. And if you get to the table as opposed to the podiums,
even better.
There's a chance to kind of really chat with some of these guys.
Yeah, once I had kind of warmed up and I had questions, and then I was like, there with like Travis Hunter or Will Johnson or some of the guys that had a much bigger group, and it was a little harder to get into it. So first thing tomorrow, I'm going to have to get my first question out. Quinn Ewers. I'm going to...
Is that your target?
Yeah, I think
Good luck with that. That's going to be a scrum.
You think? Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I would not have asked a question of Travis Hunter. Like that had to be like 100 people probably.
It was the biggest crowd I saw.
Yeah, it's crazy. So who are some of the people you talked to? Or that you listened to? I mean, let me correct myself. That you listened to.
So I know that you're excited about Emmanwori, but the first guy I actually got to talk to or listen to was Kevin Winston Jr. And similar kind of mold of a player and stuff.
Wait, who's Kevin?
I've had to explain to Brian now like 7 times who he is. And I'm like, he's this guy I'm really excited about. Safety out of Penn State. It's a bummer. I don't think he's quite healthy yet, so he's not going to be able to run or do any of the drills or anything. But he's one of the kind of my draft crushes, and he was the first guy I got to see today. So that was really cool.
He's a good-looking safety, physically, fits the mold. Tall, big. He's not Nick Emmanwori big, but he's like 210. I mean, he's a solidly built safety.
I think he was easily the second biggest safety that I saw.
And he was one of the things that behind the scenes is there's the podiums where everyone speaks at, or the tables, but then the special guys, the special ones get pulled out by PR to talk at one of the bigwig tables.
Yeah.
He got pulled out, so I don't know where he was going to talk. But
oh, that's right. Yeah.
You saw him being led to talk. So, I may not know who he is, but apparently, everyone else.
And he had first round buzz before he got hurt and everything. And so, yeah, I mean, he's a bigger time prospect for sure.
Yeah, I will never pretend, or I'll do my best to not pretend to know somebody that I don't know, that I haven't watched.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously I'm doing a lot of draft coverage.
Yeah.
Now we are doing a lot of draft coverage, but there's 300 and whatever guys here. I've just started learning about some of them. I'll know more by the end, but yeah, that is one guy I haven't known, but I promise you, I will think about watching.
He's good. He's fun.
I believe you. The funny thing is, you and I talked about this before we talked to players today. Safety, I was kicking myself because there were some things I wanted to ask Mike Macdonald. I literally had 3 chances to talk to Mike Macdonald, and there was multiple questions I forgot to ask him. That's the state of my mind yesterday. But one of them was about safety.
Yeah.
No one has asked him about safety, and I think you and I both believe Rayshawn Jenkins is probably not going to be with the team next year.
I mean, it would be easy to move on from him at least, right? I wouldn't be surprised if he's back. I mean, he was fine and serviceable, but he's not a lock for the future of this team by any means. And so
yeah, I mean, I think you get $6 million saved on the cap if you let him go. And Kobe Bryant, Wally pipped him last season and is now the clear starter, and he's young. So yeah, part of it is I know that, but I haven't turned that into being super interested in the safeties in this class. The only safety that has really captured my interest is the physical freak known as Nick Emmanwori.
Yeah.
And this guy is 6'3", 225, 227 pounds, somewhere around there. And I've got my sheet here. And he's literally the only guy that I marked that I wanted to talk to on the safety list.
Yeah.
And so stood up there, talked to, there's a decent group around him, but talked to him. I posted, have I posted the video yet? I might have, I don't know.
I think you did.
This guy, I asked him if he's watched KAM CHANCELLOR. Yes. he also had been coached by Kam Chancellor's coach,
Yeah.
who had compared the two. He was asked whether or not, or what he expected to run in the 40, and he said 4.3.
That shocked me. I didn't know he was aiming that high.
I think that there's a lot of eyebrows, like there's a lot of hats and other things, but I think I saw eyebrows go like, woo. If he runs a 4.3 at 225,
All bets are off.
a player like that, an athlete like that, does he get out of the first round in this draft?
I don't know. I mean, it's an interesting draft. Like, there's a lot of guys that feel like they could slide anywhere from like 15 to 40 almost,
Yeah.
right? So like, yeah, and he's kind of in that mix. And if he does something insane like that, does he slide way up into the first? Like, potentially, yeah. I think he becomes very likely to be a first-round pick at that rate.
Well, the intrigue thickens because I've decided I've thrown all caution to the wind. I literally was told by Bob Condata, John Boyle, Greg Bell, don't be the guy that asks whether you spoke to a specific team. And I didn't ask why. That would have been a good reporter question. Why? I just like, okay. And then I did it anyway a little bit yesterday. And I'm like thinking about it, like, I want to know. Like,
Yeah.
it's one of the things there's guys I talked to that haven't talked to the Seahawks. That's information too. Well, I asked him about, after Chancellor asked him about whether he met with Seahawks, and there's different types of visits. There's informal and there's formal.
Yeah.
He had a formal visit with the Seahawks. So this is a guy that even at his current projection that might be like second round, up high second round, low first round, if they're meeting with him, he's an option at 18. Like, the only way that you're meeting with him is if you think that he might be someone that, and it might not be an option 18. Maybe they trade back to the late 20s or the mid 20s, and they think he could be an option there. But I've talked to a lot of guys. There's not been that many confirmed visits. He's one of them.
I think it's just interesting too that they're talking to safeties at all, right? I think that just kind of reinforces that there's, and he might be a guy that they just see as like, hey, this is a special talent, and so maybe that's why he's getting the meeting. But I think, yeah, it seems like maybe they're interested in safety and then obviously interested in him. So how do they fit that if he's going to run 4.3?
Well, what do we know about Mike McDonald and his defense? What are the positions that have been standout parts of his defense so far in the past?
In the past, I mean, Kyle Hamilton. Yeah, safety, right?
Safety,
Middle
linebacker,
linebacker.
right? Like, he talks a lot about the middle of the field.
Yep.
Let's play the game for a second. If they added a Kam Chancellor-like safety to Kobe Bryant, to Julian Love, to Ernest Jones, assuming he's back, Tyrese Knight, how do you think that works? Like, what do you think? How would that change the way they'd play defense?
I mean, I think it's huge. I mean, I think one of the things, like, they need a safety that can play really physically, right? And Jenkins was okay at that, but like, I think if you have him and he's, you know, that wild card and that playmaker, and McDonald finds ways to get those guys involved and wants to play some of these guys up closer to the line and have them, like, there's the responsibilities are pretty complex, and so I think having a jack of all trades like that, who isn't just kind of good at everything. This is a special talent, right? Yeah, I mean, you add a playmaker to the defense. Anytime you can find a playmaker, it's a huge deal.
I admit, like, it's kind of blinded me. The idea of a 225-pound safety that runs a 4.3, I'm kind of pilled. It's blinded me in the sense of the Seahawks shouldn't be drafting a safety in the first round. like, I don't think, like, they're relatively well appointed there. They have other places where it would be a much bigger deal if they could add. You know, we talked about offensive line, we talked about defensive line.
But after offensive line, are you really that much more passionate about getting a defensive lineman than you are a safety? Like, I don't think there's like that much less opportunity or importance or.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think you're right, and this is why I'm spinning a little bit, because
This is why I've been telling you to watch Kevin Winston, Andrew Makuba. Yeah, all these guys.
So I think I've fallen into the trap of I'm a defensive tackle.
Yeah.
I'm a defensive line guy. I
Yeah.
love defensive line, and this happens to be a very deep defensive line class. So I just keep going back to the edges and going back to defensive tackles. And thinking, okay, you don't have to draft an offensive lineman in the first round, but if the best player is a defensive lineman, take him. There's no linebacker that I think makes sense to be taking, unless they didn't sign Ernst Jones, and even then, I just don't think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Corner, probably not. I'll talk about another confirmed visit, by the way, in a second at a corner position. 2, as a matter of fact. But I don't think that's a first-round thing.
I don't know about that either.
We'll talk about it. But safety, to your point, it's probably a bigger need than defensive line.
Mm-hmm.
Assuming Jaron Reed comes back, based on what Mike McDonald said, assuming Rayshon Jenkins isn't coming back, and Rayshon Jenkins' role has been to be a box safety for them. If there's a guy that's worthy, you're right. And so that's why I'm like, oh, I have to go watch this Winston dude now.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, for sure.
Would have been nice if you'd asked him a question.
I should have. Yeah, I know.
Well, maybe we would have found out he talked to the Seahawks.
I should have. I know. I'm kicking myself about it now. But I think corner's in the same boat, right? Like you're looking at Job or I don't know, Trey Brown or if they want to play Spoon in as a nickel, then I think corner is the exact same situation where it may make sense to find another guy play outside corner. You can get reps for all these guys, right?
Yeah. I mean, Job is a guy you like.
Yep.
I don't think you can assume that this,
you don't want to walk into the season and just hand him basically a starting job.
No, and Nehemiah Pritchett, don't count on that being the guy. And so 2 other guys I spoke to that confirmed formal visits with the Seahawks. Mm-hmm. One is Azariah Thomas, who is corner from Florida State. He is widely expected to be a first-round pick. Some people think he might be second, but similar ranking to Nick Emmanwori in terms of where he slots. Another guy I talked to who's not a first-round pick, but is another corner, Kobe Bryant. I've been kind of tongue-in-cheeking it for a while that, oh my God, we have to have multiple Kobe Bryants.
Yeah.
I loved his press. You heard a little bit of his press conference.
Him and Travis Hunter were right next to each other, and I definitely found myself listening into Kobe Bryant and kind of tuning out Hunter because Hunter unfortunately wasn't the most interesting interview, but he was peppy, very peppy.
He is peppy, and he's got swagger.
Yeah,
and I was like, yeah, he would fit. He would fit. He gave me Devin Witherspoon vibes. I'm not saying he is Devin Witherspoon, but that's the kind of energy that he brought, and the confidence he presented himself with. And it was kind of cool listening to him. He was like, man, Kansas really helped me prepare me for this. I wouldn't have been able to do this a few years ago. I would have been sweating up here, but I've kind of got to where I am now. And I asked him, okay, if you get drafted by the Seahawks and you're one of 2 Kobe Bryants on the same team, what do you want people to call you? And he's like, Mamba. I think he said Mamba. Initially, I thought he said Mama.
No,
but it makes a lot more sense if he said Mamba.
Yeah. Mamba.
It would be very funny if he said Mama.
I will say, though, he might have been the smallest guy I saw.
He's small.
Yeah, he is not big.
He's small. So is Spoon. Now, Bryant's shorter.
Yeah.
But have you watched any of him?
No.
Mm-mm. The reason Spoon comes up, not just the energy, but he hits.
Okay.
He pops.
He plays big.
Yeah, he plays pretty big. And for the Seahawks to have confirmed a conversation with him, I'm excited about that fit, actually. Maybe a later round guy, but interesting. And then Azariah Thomas, to your point, that's a guy that you might have to target in the mid-20s if you trade back. I don't think you'd pick him at 18. Maybe you pick him at 50. I think that's a possibility if he falls into that range. He talked about how Reek Woolen's a guy that he watches in the league, and he's another big corner. And so that was interesting. Darian Porter was another guy who I've been kind of enamored with because I saw him at the Senior Bowl, and I was like, holy crap, that guy is differently built. Mm-hmm. Wide receiver, converted to corner. We've heard that a couple times in Seattle with Richard Sherman and with Reek Woolen. really well spoken, had the glasses, kind of like a little soft spoken, and he just kept talking about Reek Woolen over and over again, like as a guy that he's watched a lot of.
That's interesting.
He has not met with the Seahawks, formally or informally. So take that for what it's worth.
Siobhan Revel was really interesting. And
Yeah.
It's, you asked about KAM Chancellor to Emmanwori. I wanted to ask Revel about Sherm, and then somebody asked him, and I don't know if this was like all time, but he asked him who his top 5 corners were. And it must have been all time, because I swear he said Dion first. But he didn't bring up Sherm, and I was surprised, because he's a taller cornerback, and so I wanted to ask, like, hey, that a guy you emulate or anything like that? So I don't know, maybe he's out, because there's no Sherm love. There's no LOB respect.
Dana and I were talking about this yesterday when people were talking with the linebackers and like, who are your favorite linebackers you've watched? I mean, people would say like, oh, there's a throwback to Luke Kuechly. And I was like, okay, but nobody, not a single one mentioned Bobby Wagner.
That's crazy.
Which is wild to me. I mean,
Yeah.
but I think Bobby's still slept on, but we won't go there. Talk about Travis Hunter for a second, because I know he's not a Seahawks option. But I did hear some rumors that he might fall lower than people realize. Like that there's a chance he might not go in the top 5 of this draft. What was your impression?
I mean, he didn't lack confidence. He didn't, he had a little bit of swagger, but like overall it just felt like he was a little too cool for school, which, if I was standing in front of me, I probably wouldn't be that like, bought in either. But like, yeah, it just was, kind of short answers, a couple like no comments on some like what felt like basic questions. Like, so yeah, just a little snooty, which was interesting. He was the only guy that gave off any of that kind of vibe. That, some guys, seemed a little nervous. Some guys were like, okay, you've worked with like a PR team, right? You're a little like on it and stuff. But like, yeah, he was just like, a little uninterested, I guess.
Did you say he gave some no comments?
Yeah, a couple. And like, I missed one of the questions that he gave it to, but then the other one was just like, did you meet with the Patriots? And he said no comment. And so I thought that was interesting, because every other player that nobody else either got the advice that you got about not asking if they met with teams, or they just don't follow it, because everyone's asking.
Yeah.
And players all answer. So he didn't want to answer that one though.
I haven't heard anyone else say no comment. That I don't love that. I don't love the implications there, but it doesn't matter for the Seahawks. He's not in the option for the Seahawks. No. But also tight ends. We talked to tight ends today, or listened to tight ends. I'm going to keep harassing you about that. Who did you listen to on the tight end front?
Gunnar Helm was the first guy.
You're Gunnar Helm pilled a little bit.
I am. I will say his interview didn't do anything for me in that respect. He was one of the guys where it was like, okay, you've got like these boilerplate answers, and like, he said like University of Texas like 10 times, and I'm like, okay, we get it. Like, he was, polished, put together, on top of it. So that was cool. And then I kind of bounced around after that. Another guy that was a little too cool for school was Aronde Gadsden.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's Syracuse. That's Syracuse.
Yeah, former. Oh, yeah, his dad used to play.
Yeah. He had a little bit of that vibe too. He was like physically, he was impressive though. He was one of the more like built, taller, physically imposing of the tight ends that I saw.
The tight ends for me was actually a pretty fun group to talk to, and I kind of buzzed around a few. I'm going to look at my notes because I can't keep track of all of them. But a few that stood out. So I talked to Mason Taylor, and son of Jason Taylor, edge rusher for the Dolphins all those years. I mean, I talked to him at the Senior Bowl as well. I think he's going to be a really good pro. Obviously, you grow up in a household with a professional football player. You kind of know what's going on there. And
that's what I'm doing on this one.
He talked about how if you held the ball in your household, you were getting tackled. It didn't matter if it was his mom, didn't matter if it was his dad, whoever. Like, it's just a very competitive household, and he's really he's well spoken. He's confident but not cocky. He's just I think a good kid and physically imposing. His tape, watching him block is not good. Like, he's got some really rough tape. I thought, just because of his size, when I saw him at the Senior Bowl, I was like, oh, this guy's prototypical. Like, he's going to be a good blocker. I asked him actually how he'd do blocking his dad, and he said, oh, I do great back then or now. But, you know, I think he has not spoken to the Seahawks, I think, if I remember correctly. Another guy I talked to, a little bit less known. Couple guys. I want to make sure I got the right people here. I talked to Moliki Matavo from UCLA, who's a big tight end. That someone had clued me into to take a look at. Nice guy, really well spoken, a lot of athletic, like played a number of different positions, been an athlete. He has not met with the Seahawks, so I didn't spend a ton of time there.
Did you catch any tight ends that had talked to the Seahawks?
I did.
Oh, okay.
I did.
Spoiler.
I did. So Jalen Conyers from Texas Tech. Oh, that was like a little draft crush I have.
But this is a little stretch to consider him just a tight end.
It is a little bit of a stretch. So he is a former quarterback. He has played tight end. He has played fullback. He's been a wildcat quarterback. I asked him, like, he's just done a lot of different things, and he's met with the Seahawks. And so I look at him as a potential fullback, potential wildcat quarterback. He's a 5th, 6th round pick. He's a day 3 guy. But I put the video, I think I put the video up already, or have I? I don't know. I've lost track of what I've done so far. It's been a wild morning. But I have video of it. I'll put it up there so people can watch it.
The Clint Kubiak effect, though, it's already happening. We're already seeing it.
I asked a number of the guys about, and tight ends that I talked to, like, how do you feel blocking for wide zone? Got some good answers to that. Another guy, I talked to Terrence Ferguson, who's, did you watch him at all at Oregon?
Only a little.
So he's got the, like, the freckled, redhead, like, Opie kind of look to him.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And
him and Mason Taylor are like polar opposites.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, and like, I went to the Senior Bowl thinking, like, Elijah Arroyo, this guy is gonna show out. And he did. He moved really well. I thought Terrence Ferguson was not out of place.
Yep. Running
routes with Elijah Arroyo, and seeing him here, I didn't actually talk to him at the Senior Bowl, but seeing him here, he's built well. He's not like strong, but he's not.
He fits in with all the. He didn't stick out in any way.
And I thought he was well spoken. I talked to Jabbar Muhammad, corner.
Yeah.
He talked about Terrence Ferguson being his dog, and that he is like one of the best route runners he's seen at the position.
Okay.
He has met with the Seahawks. So,
okay.
Terrence Ferguson.
Okay.
I think it was an informal.
Okay.
But he has met with the Seahawks. So that was another. Who else? Did you talk to Luke Lachey? Listen to Luke Lachey at all?
I did listen to him for a minute, just a little bit. Nothing really stuck out with me.
I'll have the whole audio of the Tyler Warren session. That was like, he was
packed too.
Packed. I got a little bit of video, but I was like, I'm not gonna be able to ask anything. There's other guys I'm gonna have a better chance to talk to, so I don't have a lot of video. But Patreon.hawkblogger members, you'll get the full audio of the Tyler Warren interview. So I don't know if he talked to the Seahawks based on how many people are surrounding him. Again, it seems unlikely that, I think I did hear that he's met with the Colts, who I think we've all pretty much assumed he's not going to get past 14 probably. So I think he's a pipe dream for the Seahawks anyway. Did not talk to Harold Fannin. I think maybe Dana talked to Harold Fannin. I can't remember. Who else? There's one other guy. I'm trying to look through my notes real quick. I talked to Jake Brenningstool from Clemson.
I was going to swing by, and I didn't, but he's He's a character, kind of, right? I mean,
he was
no.
not enough that it's sticking out in my head.
Okay.
I do have video of that interview I'll post, but like, I think he can play fullback. He's one of the guys that's been called out as a possible fullback. I think he met with the Seahawks, but I don't want I have to it's a little blurry in my head.
Interesting.
But I think he's met with them, but I'm not positive. Another guy that I talked to that I didn't know anything about, but I literally heard him talking. I'm like, God, I got drawn in, was Brant Kuthi of Utah.
Oh, I missed him.
So he, I think, tore his ACL. He's not going to be doing any of the drills here. Tore his ACL, I think, in like November. But has played quarterback, fullback, tight end. Has kind of done it all.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if he's like a. He said he won't be able to do pro day, but he'll be ready for training camp. I wonder if he's a UDFA kind of option for the Seahawks. Utah runs like they've picked guys from Utah before, right?
Yeah.
So he was. I'll post some video of his, but he was an interesting, well-spoken guy as well. Did you listen to Jackson Haas at all?
I did, yeah. I mean, he's, what you'd expect from a Georgia Tech tight end.
What does that mean?
I mean, Georgia Tech. What do you think of when you think of Georgia Tech?
I don't think of anything.
Oh, okay. No, they run the ball.
Okay, all right.
Big time run the ball.
Yeah. Okay.
So he was actually interesting because he did. Somebody asked him a question about like, what's your favorite like route concept or something like that, and he. I don't remember what his answer was exactly. But he talked about how he liked to catch the ball over the middle of the field, and he wished he got to do that more. But seemed to really love Georgia Tech, love being a blocking tight end. That role, he really gravitated towards it. So I don't think he's supposed to go early at all. But maybe you can find a Will Dissly there, something like that.
You spoke, or you listened to Will Johnson, yeah?
Yes.
You posted a video of him.
Yes.
I don't know where he's going to go in this class. What's your thought about him? What'd you hear from him?
So he's not running today, but I think he's going to run in his pro day, and I think that's going to. I mean, he's a guy that's gotten, I think, talked about like, is he actually the best corner in this class? But I think the long speed's kind of a question with him, and so I think
tackling has also come up as a question.
A little bit, yeah. But I mean, that's another dude that's a playmaker. He was somebody he got taken off before I could ask him, but I wanted to know if McDonald had been involved in recruiting him, because McDonald was left the year that he was a freshman. But I imagine they would have been they would have talked at least. So. But didn't get to ask that, unfortunately. So, he was great, though. He was another guy really... some of these guys are, like, robotic in it, that are really clean. But he seemed very comfortable and, like, just really clean answers. And, yeah, I liked him a lot, actually.
So I have Jade Barron's audio up on Patreon. I didn't listen to him, so I have no idea what he said. Talk about Kobe Bryant, Travis Hunter. A little intel from her pal Dana O'Gorman.
Yeah.
She talked to Zoff Frazier. Have you heard of Zoff Frazier?
I heard of him today when I saw him on the thing, and I saw Dana over there. So
he went to UTSA.
Okay.
And this is a guy that Ryan Fowler whispered in my ear 2 nights ago. He's like, I was talking about Darian Porter. He's like, yeah, he's not as big on Darian Porter, but have you watched Zoff Frazier? Like, I have no idea what you're talking about, but sure, no, I haven't seen him. Dana talked to him. Really, like, he was off on the side, smaller, like, table, not podium, and loved him. He's met with the Seahawks.
Interesting.
So if you're a Darian Porter guy, like I've kind of been, you may want to start looking at Zoff Frazier, and it's Z-A-H. And I'll see if Dana has video of that conversation, but they tend to do smaller clips, not full video, so we'll find out what we have. But he's similarly, like, I saw him walk by. He was getting pulled out to do some other interview. He's an interesting fit.
Yeah, tall?
Tall.
Is he big,
yeah,
big
no,
dude?
he's definitely tall. He's like a Requilin style corner. I think that's
a theme then, right? Like, who are the guys that the Seahawks talk to? So they're looking at, like...
Isaiah Thomas. I mean, Kobe Bryant doesn't fit that.
Yeah,
but that means they've talked to a number of corners, and I think they should be, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, why not?
Yeah. So I think that was I was just burnt out. I didn't do the next go. I didn't talk to Upton Stout.
Yeah, I also skipped that one.
I was done. So it was. I mean, we just went through a bunch of stuff there. What was your first impression of this whole experience?
My first impression. I think, like I said, like it was there's so much going on. There's a ton of people. Like, you know, you guys are only seeing a tiny fraction of how big this room is, and it's cut in half with all the, you know, interviews happening on the other side and everything. But it's really like straightforward. Like I was nervous. I was like, how's this gonna work? What am I gonna have to do? All this stuff, and no, it's pretty easy for as much as there's going on. It's cool. It's really nice.
When I was walking in today, so, you know, like you walk in and then there's this big long hallway in the convention center to get down to Radio Row. And as that hallway also is the hallway that takes you into Lucas Oil Stadium.
Yeah.
So as I'm walking into the convention center, all the coaches
I had that too.
are walking toward the convention center. And so I found myself, like, the troublemaker in me wanted to say, "Coach," and see how many heads would like flip around, you know. But I saw like Mike McDaniel, and he was doing some like impression. Like, it was so on brand for Mike McDaniel. He was doing some voice.
Somebody, I don't remember now who it was, but somebody asked one of the players if they had met with the Dolphins, and he was like, "Oh yeah, Coach Mike, he's really funny."
I mean, that guy is very likable.
Yes. Hipster homebrew. I just I really enjoy everything he kind of brings, and I hope the Dolphins kind of find their way, because that was a fun team for a couple of years. Yep. They kind of spiraled last year, but rest of the day. So just to set the stage, we're gonna bolt out of here in a little bit, get some lunch. Yep.
And then 3 o'clock Eastern time is, I think, when we're allowed to go into Lucas Oil to watch some of this stuff.
I'm excited about that too, because one of the first impressions I had was walk in trying to find where I was going to get my credentials, and down at the far end of the hallway there were a couple players, and they were just like warming up and, you know, kind of doing little sprints and stuff, and this one guy like was like bounding, and it was like, well, that's a superhero, like how high he was jumping. And like I was like, oh, that's not what humans do. What is going on? So I'm excited to see that actually in person.
Yeah, I have my tempered expectations for the in-stadium stuff, because so many people have told me they stick the media in this one section, it's hard to see, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, okay.
You have to help me remember, I rented a long lens for my camera. So nice. I have to at least bring it and look like I know what I'm doing.
Yep.
And yeah, so I'm looking for that. If you're interested, I don't know if I'll come back for it or not, but 3:30, Brian Schottenheimer is doing his press conference.
Oh, yeah?
Do you want to ask Skybox Shoddy some questions?
Yeah, maybe. We should try.
Maybe. Potentially, Robert Mays will be on later today. He and I talked about trying to get him on later this afternoon. Might pull some other people together. I was talking to the guys over at Bootleg Football. Don't know. So keep an eye out. Make sure you've clicked like. Make sure you click subscribe. Click the bell to get notified when I go live, because as you've been seeing this week, it's chaotic. Don't know, can't predict when things are going to happen. I'm also I can think, a little bit chaotic by nature, so that, like, Nathan could show you this table and it kind of mimics what goes on in my brain. So just keep an eye on that. Appreciate everyone that's been supporting. And speaking of that, we've got 50 Hawk Blogger memberships from Italian Night, who just like doesn't just do that, he does another 50. So he's done 100 free Hawk Blogger memberships. It is a great time. All you got to do to get one of these memberships is like turn on gifting on your profile, like, subscribe, watch the channel, and YouTube will automatically gift these subscriptions to the people that watch it the most often or engage with it. And now that there's all this members only content that we're adding, all you got to do is upgrade that to club level, and you get members only access to all the videos that Nathan and I are going to be posting the rest of the week. So we haven't even gotten to offensive line yet.
No.
I think that's my last day as offensive line.
Yeah.
So lots of great stuff coming. It's a great time to upgrade to being club level or higher. All the support is really, really, really appreciated. This guy flew all the way out here. I'm going to try to help him as well. And, all this comes from you guys, so I really appreciate it. Corey Coleman, who's been a member for 7 months, says, I watched an old episode of Real Hawk Talk from 6 years ago. Nathan has transformed
Just a little
since
bit.
then. Well done on the hard work.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
you're looking good, dude.
Lost a few pounds, yeah. So
Yeah,
it's
how
been
does it
good.
feel?
Really good.
Was it like, what was the impetus? Was it just wanted it, or is it health related or anything like that?
A little bit of everything, like,
Yeah.
hit a number that I didn't like. That was definitely part of it.
Been there?
A little bit of
I'm there currently.
getting off the couch was hard, and not in a I was lazy way, but there were times I would like to go to stand up, and I was like, standing up is too hard. I need to fix some stuff. So yeah, I think just got kids and all that, and you want to make sure you're healthy for them and all that. So yeah, a little
That's
bit of
impressive.
everything.
I like the willpower, motivation to keep going is a big deal. So we'll find out how much I actually like this aspect of Nathan when we go pick where we eat lunch. If he only wants to go to a salad joint, we might have some issues. But
I'm starving, so that is not going to be a problem.
all right, let's go find some food.
Yep.
Everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. Give the show a like, click subscribe. We'll be back with more, as you know, and we'll upload more all along the way. So until we see you next, take care. This is myself, Brian Emhauser, Nathan Ernst, coming to you from the Combine in Indianapolis. Have a great rest of your day.